Hi, everybody. Welcome to the Token Metrics Women in Crypto series to celebrate Women's History Month. I'm your host, Bill Noble. I'm joined by an esteemed person in crypto, Perianne Boring. Perianne, welcome to the show.
Hey, Bill. It's great to be here.
All right, so let's take a different tact, right? You're in DC or in government, right? You started in government. How did you go from government to crypto? Was it love of crypto, or I don't like government anymore, or both? Can you tell us about that?
Well, I would consider myself a freedom-loving American, and I started my career in government to fight for a better monetary system. So I grew up in Central Florida, and I was in college during the financial crisis of '08. I majored in economics, and the financial crisis was essentially the housing market blowing up, and that was basically the state of Florida, which was everybody I knew, my family, all my friends, my community. And so I really wanted to understand what was happening and what was happening in my economy, what was happening in my community around me. And I was getting really frustrated because my economics professors really couldn't explain what had happened, what was going on in real time. And that was also when Congressman Ron Paul was running for president. And in his campaign, he was really the only person that was able to succinctly explain what had happened. And so that kind of encouraged me to do my own study of economics and monetary policy. And what I learned is that there's a lot of fraud and abuse and manipulation, both in our financial system and our monetary system. I did not believe that the current system met the values that I was raised on. And so I dedicated my career at an early age to fighting for something better. And so that led me to Washington, D.C. I began as an intern in the White House my senior year of college, and then I went to Capitol Hill and I worked in the House of Representatives. And while I was there, I learned about Bitcoin. And when I heard about this alternative currency that was not controlled by a bureaucracy or was not issued by a central bank or a government, where you have that separation between money and state and a sound money system, one that can't be manipulated based on a bureaucracy, to me, that was a really interesting concept. So I started learning all about it. And then I became convinced that this is going to be the tool to get us to a more sound financial system. So I'm now all in. I launched the Chamber of Digital Commerce in 2014 to help advocate for the growth and the acceptance of this technology. So we're 8 years into this. We're just as busy as ever. And no regrets. I mean, I do believe this is exactly where I'm meant to be. And we still have a lot of work ahead of us.
All right. So speaking of that work, tell us about this entity you work for. In other words, are you a consultancy that charges people money, or does somebody fund you? Can you give me some color around that?
The Chamber of Digital Commerce is a nonprofit organization. We're a 501c6. We're a trade association. We represent about 200 businesses that are investing in and innovating with blockchain-based technology. So our membership is open to all those who are building and investing in this space. Companies pay annual membership fees to be a member of the chamber. And that's what funds our team salary, my salary, and our efforts at the organization. So we are not hired guns. We're not consultants. We do not sell any products or services. We're a membership organization and we're member driven.
Okay, excellent. So you've probably got everybody from big corporations to smaller crypto entities, right? Is there any inter-customer or inter-sponsor rivalry, or I can't believe we have them in the organization? Is there anything like that going on?
So we represent companies all across the ecosystem, everything from your whippersnapper startups to some of the smallest companies who are pioneering and innovating in this space, to major financial institutions who are working on making investments and building in the crypto and blockchain space as well, and then literally everything in between. So there's a lot of partnerships that are formed across our platform. There's a lot of magic that can happen when you take small small companies and entrepreneurs are really at the cutting edge of technology, and being able to combine that with the power of the institution is creating to all sorts of partnerships across the ecosystem and driving the growth and further development of this technology.
Here's an interesting question. Do you think a political party, keeping like Andrew Yang in mind, do you think somebody like a group like the Republican Party can help rebrand itself by going pro crypto? Because I remember, when crypto legislation came around, the crypto community got really loud calling their congressman. Is there anything that you could say around parties rebranding around crypto, politicians rebranding around crypto, and the power of the crypto voting base that you might see from your perspective?
I do believe government is a reflection of the people. I think we are still in early days of adoption. I think we're still in that bottom half of the S curve. And so I think the adoption cycles are going to get very powerful over the next 5 to 10 years. And as more people own digital assets, I think that absolutely will have a big impact on what our government looks like, and how public policymakers are choosing to support or not support our space. I do think this should be a nonpartisan issue. We've worked really, really hard to keep it nonpartisan. At the end of the day, this is about jobs. It's about technology. It's about economic security. It can have a role in national security as well. We really want to keep with those themes. We don't want to turn this into a partisan divide, because as soon as you do that, it makes it very difficult to get anything accomplished in Washington, an environment where it's already very hard to get things done anyways. And we are seeing support from all across the aisle. The Congressional Blockchain Caucus, which was established in 2016, today it represents, there's over 30 members of Congress that have joined the caucus. And it is bipartisan. They have equal representation across both sides of the aisle. I do think we have seen more success with Republicans than with Democrats, but I think that's changing. And I think initially Republicans have really embrace this because they see this as a business opportunity, job growth, economic growth. They see that part of the industry. But now a lot of Democrats are also starting to better understand this technology, and they're starting to see how it resonates with a more liberal agenda or a social forward agenda. Things like consumer protections, financial inclusion. We're seeing more people especially in Congress understanding that, and we're starting to get involved. So again, I don't think this should be partisan. But there's things on both sides of the aisle who should make them want to embrace the power of this technology. And then of course we just had the executive order issued by President Biden, which says that blockchain technology is a critical and emerging technology. So I thought that was a major validation at the highest level of our government for the importance of this technology. And a big component of that was U.S. competitiveness globally, and the importance of the U.S. being the leader of this technology ecosystem. So I think we're going in the right direction, but there's still much work that needs to be done.
All right, so let's try central bank digital currencies, right? So let's say, I don't know, people can get unemployment, Social Security, Medicaid, et cetera. Have you ever talked to anybody at the Fed or in Congress about the idea of dollar coin, right? Either as a blockchain built by the Fed or outsourced somewhere else. For example, if universal basic income has ever come up in any of your conversations with crypto. I mean, it's okay if the answer is no, but have you ever had any of these outside the box, like 40,000 foot conversations or tactical conversations about like a dollar coin?
So the idea of like a Fed coin, that term was coined by David Alfondato from the St. Louis Fed. And this is, the idea of central bank digital currencies is something that's been debated for years in Washington and all around the world. Myself and our team at the Chamber of Digital Commerce, we have had conversations with the Fed, both the Board of Governors, as well as a number of the regional banks around the country, about their work and study of digital currencies, blockchain-based technologies, and central bank digital currencies. In 2016, we led the first private sector briefing for the Board of Governors of the Federal Reserve. We took in a handful of our members,
Wow.
and we had the opportunity to meet the Fed chair. Then it was Janet Yellen. She's now the Treasury Secretary. And it was really an amazing day because the last time the Fed made a comment about Bitcoin was a couple of years ago when then Chair Yellen was asked during her congressional testimony. She was asked by Senator Joe Manchin if she would ban Bitcoin because Joe Manchin was concerned about Bitcoin being used for illicit purposes. And that was during the whole Silk Road scandal, if you can appreciate the history from back then. And Janet Yellen had said, we don't have any jurisdiction over Bitcoin. And that was the extent of her statement. And then she kind of just politely moved on to the next topic. She didn't really want to engage with Congress on Bitcoin or virtual currencies really at all. But it was a huge moment because it was the first time the Federal Reserve had made a statement about Bitcoin. And so that was all over headlines all over the world. The Fed does not have jurisdiction over Bitcoin.
No doubt.
So then fast forward just a couple of years later, when we had the opportunity to meet with her privately, she had stated that to us that she believed blockchain technology would have tremendous benefits for the financial system. And she had encouraged the board as well as her peers, other central banks around the world, to learn everything they can about this technology. So we've certainly had the opportunity to help shape a lot of those conversations happening at the Fed when it comes to a central bank digital currency. This is really just a tokenized version of the dollar and a place of where we're kind of navigating and pointing resources is to recognize and empower our private sector. I think when it comes to CBDCs, I would argue we're about 10 years behind China. They started building the digital yuan almost 10 years ago. And they've launched it. They debuted it at the Winter Olympics just a couple of weeks ago. It's out there. I personally have read over 120 of the patents that the PBOC filed on the digital yuan. And I can tell you there are a lot of things that are very scary to me as a Westerner. This is a surveillance system. I do think it's important that the US is at the forefront of developing the rails that we will all use to engage in commerce globally. I don't want to use the digital yuan. I don't want my fellow Americans to be forced to use it either. I think the way we win this race is by empowering our private sector. The Fed is not going to be able to. I think the best course of action is to harness what the private sector has been building with stablecoins. So we hope to see private partnerships, public and private partnerships emerge between government, those interested in having a digital dollar, and leveraging the technology that stablecoin issuers that are here, that U.S. businesses, U.S. arrangements that are regulated by U.S. regulators. I hope we can leverage those to address this global race of CBDCs and digital fiat.
Interesting. Glad to know that Secretary Yellen is on our side. That's good news.
Well, I hope so. I think she's
for today, right? Yeah, right. So last question. So when it comes to crypto, sounds like you're in serious business, and we on behalf of the crypto world appreciate you being out there in DC advocating for all of us. But when it comes to crypto, do you have anybody that you look up to, you follow? Do you have, do you do crypto for work? Do you do crypto for fun as well? Or what do you do for fun, like when you're not doing the DC crypto thing?
Yeah, crypto has really kind of encompassed my entire life at this point. What I do at the chamber has been pretty demanding. There's just a huge amount of interest in regulating this space. And so we spend a lot of time ensuring that the industry has a seat at the table to make sure whatever is put forward by policymakers is not harming innovation, but encourages the development of this technology. So when I'm not working, I really enjoy traveling. I do a lot of traveling with what I do at the chamber. I was just in New York this week. I was in Arizona a couple of weeks before that. I'll be in Miami for Bitcoin 2022 next month. So
Oh,
I
nice.
travel for work, but then I also really enjoy that personally. I enjoy getting to meet new people, and I love exploring. I like trying new things. I like exploring a new town, and I like getting meals with interesting people who can have an interesting conversation. And I like anything outside. I love everything outdoors. I spend a lot of time behind the computer. Spend a lot of time communicating, corresponding with our members and policymakers. So anytime I can get some vitamin D, I always try to. But you asked who is someone who's inspired me. So within the policy circles, I would say someone who's just really been just an amazing advocate for our space is SEC Commissioner Hester Peirce. She's really stuck to her principles during her time at the commission. She's incredibly consistent in her messaging. And she's also very engaging with the industry. She's really active in our community. She regularly attends crypto events. She's always open for a conversation. She doesn't turn down meeting requests unless maybe they don't look like they would make sense for her to take. But she's always sending out stuff on Twitter saying, "Hey, I'm going to be in so and so city this week. Anybody who'd like to catch up or who would like to meet and talk with me, please reach out." And I think that's absolutely essential. I think our policymakers need to really know what's happening in the private sector, and they need to have relationships with the businesses that are building in the most innovative technology ecosystems in order for them to be effective as policymakers. And then she's pushed back. I mean, she has been a key voice at the SEC to make sure that the crypto industry is not held to a higher standard. And there's a lot of places where we have been. A spot Bitcoin ETF is one of those. The ATS special purpose broker dealers ruling is another one. Just getting basic regulatory certainty for digital assets is kind of a third example. And she has spoken up several times saying we can't hold one industry to another standard as to another industry. We should not be picking winners and losers. So I really admire that she's done that. I don't think that's easy to push back against other people in government. And she's been an absolutely critical voice for our industry, and we're really grateful to the work that she's doing at the commission.
All right, Token Metrics Nation, Perianne is out there advocating for crypto, fighting for you, right? Fighting for the future or advocating for the future. Perianne, tell everybody out there how they can find you.
Yeah, so we're on Twitter. You can follow me at Perianne DC, and you can follow the chamber at Digital Chamber.
All right, Perianne, thanks for being on the show. All right, that concludes another one of our Women in Crypto series. This is your host, Bill Noble. I will see you next time.